Today is part one of an information and strategy packed two-part episode with the beard guy, Norm. Now, in this first episode, he's going to be talking about how to get into retail stores in order to get up to $750,000 purchase orders, and also the latest with Google business profiles and more. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think.
Did you know that just because you have a keyword in your listing, that does not mean that you are automatically guaranteed to be searchable, or as we say, indexed for that keyword? Well, how can you know what you are indexed for and not? You can actually use Helium 10's index checker to check any keywords you want. For more information, go to h10.me/index checker.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I'm your host, Bradley Sutton, and this is the show that's a completely BS-free, unscripted, and unrehearsed organic conversation about serious strategies for serious sellers of any level in the e-commerce world. And now, I believe, if my math is correct here, for the fourth time, I think you're only the second person who has ever been on the podcast 4 times, because we have a guest once per year, and we don't bring everybody back. We it's by popular demand. So Norm, I'm pretty sure Kian was the first. But now the second person to ever be invited back, total of 4 times. Norm Farrar, how's it going?
It's going great. What an honor. 4 times.
Love it. I love it. I don't know what's that. There's 3 times that trifecta, 4 times. Is there a word for that?
I don't, lucky.
I like it. Well, my dad says better lucky than good sometimes, right?
That's right.
So guys, we're not going to, since he's been on here before, we're not going to go into his full backstory. I took the liberty of writing down his old podcast number. So if this is your first time you're hearing Norm and you want to learn more about him, very first time he was on the podcast was episode 80. So make sure to check that out. You can get his backstory. And then in episodes 211 and 327, like I said, about one per year, he was, sharing a lot of good tips on, Google My Business and Amazon Post, when it was just getting started off, and press releases. And so, last time we talked about Google business profile, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about some, things that are up to date there, but tons of information in those episodes. So make sure to give those a listen at your leisure. But anyways, we're here now in the middle of 2023, and we want to see what's been cooking, for you. So how's the last beer? The last beer. Yeah. Have you been drinking a lot of beer? Yeah. Norm doesn't drink at all. The last beer he drank was probably never. But how has the last year been for you?
It's had its challenges. Amazon's not always acting the way I want it to. But you have to learn to be resilient, and you have to find different channels. And that's what I've been doing. So, I have been exploring Walmart quite a bit for the last 2 years. Carrie and I have been, talking back and forth about that, getting heavily into retail. So now,
what do you mean by retail? Like brick and mortar, or?
Yeah, getting into bricks and mortar. So not literally, but trying to get the brand on. Yeah, and
you could sell brick and mortar, I guess. Like get a product in Home Depot or something. Perhaps.
Yeah, I guess you could. So no, it's been great because been learning just a process on how to go and approach all the big box stores, as well as the mid and the independent retailers, and I've seen. Well, put it this way, when you have a single purchase or, a weekly purchase, okay, you might sell 100, a couple of thousand, whatever it could be. Well, you get a purchase order from Costco or from Walmart or whatever. They're talking, well, I showed one, we were on the cruise together, the online sellers cruise. I showed one that I picked up the day before I left, and it was $279,000 for this one buyer. And I mean, where can you get
this? Is
that?
One of your products or like a client's product or what?
No, this is I represent a few brands. So okay. This is one of their brands that were on the marketplace. And yesterday, sometime in the last 7 days, there was another one that I just showed up for $710,000.
Hold on. Let's take that $250,000 one.
Yeah.
Walking back, was this originally an Amazon
yes.
only brand? Okay, so they're an Amazon only brand. What, they reach out to you and like, hey, we're interested to get into retail, or how, or you were looking at their account and like, hey, why don't we get this in retail? Walk us through how this happened.
Okay, so I talk a lot about retail, And so one of these Amazon brands, a good brand, I reached out and, asked if I could do anything with them, with the brand. And I said, yeah, this is what I can do. I'll introduce you to a bunch of retail buyers. I've got enough experience and a big enough database that if anybody is looking for pretty much any buyer in all the main retailers, I could pretty much do an introduction. So what I started to do was create these emails, craft them so they were worded properly, help guide them with their catalog. So you want to have a wholesale catalog to show the buyer. So just got them retail ready. And then it doesn't happen all at once, but it could happen in the first month. It could happen in 3 months. But all of a sudden, buyers start to get interested. We got one today from the senior brand developer, the senior brand manager in toys at Walmart, saying, "Hey, do you have any toys that you can introduce us to?" So yeah, we take those and we ship them over to the buyer. Then the buyer, it's their prerogative if they want to respond back to the buyer or not, or to the seller. If they do, they're just dealing directly with them. So yeah, we've got quite a few brands into the retail market recently.
Yeah, I mean that's what I've always been preaching. Before Helium 10, I was working for a company that was mainly in retail, and I've said this story a lot of times, but I'm always proud of myself. Yeah, I brought their sales from like 1 to 3 million, but that's nothing compared to they're in every Walmart and every retail store, and I got them into like a bunch of grocery stores, and the POs dwarf what is going on Amazon. If you think about, hey, there's 4,000 Walmart stores. Each store has to have, quantity on the shelf. And so, each store is buying a few cases of the product. You can do the math about the kind of numbers that show up. So like that takes kind of like special people like yourself. I know, like, my old company, we used to use brokers and stuff, because you can't just like go knock on the door of Walmart or Kroger or something like that and say, hey, introduce me to your buyer. I want to show this to them. So like, how did you get to the point where you actually can go in and do that?
Yeah, one of the things that we do preach is that if you want to go and use a distributor, by all means go ahead, because they have this grouping of retailers that they're already in. So if they're a toy distributor or supplements or whatever it is, that's a fast track. You pay a little bit extra for that. So if you do have the margins that are built in, then great. When I first started working with distributors, this is when my family owned manufacturing companies. So we would be working with them, and we had all the margins that we needed to build that were built in. So we made a nice little profit. But to do it on your own, we've just searching the internet, trying to get into different buyers. LinkedIn does a great job, but more importantly, you can knock on a buyer's door, but if you don't set up and talk the lingo, one of the things I would recommend is learn the language of retail. And if you can do that, that's great. If you come off that you've never done this before and you're a hack, well, they might just put you in the other pile. People that come retail ready, they have the proper packaging, they have the right catalog, and their emails are properly written, then you've got a chance. And that's going direct. And again, I'm not even naming my service. I'm just telling people this because if they're going to do it and they want to have a chance, they've got to look professional. And another big tip is that when you get that buyer and they do send you an email, if you're going to wait more than 24 hours, forget it. You've got to get back and forth to them. And one fear that I've seen a lot of sellers in Amazon have is that, well, one big one is cash flow. I'll talk about that in a sec. But the other one is, how do I only have so much inventory. And if they want to have a container load, which will never happen on your first order, but if the fear is, oh, they're going to order too much, it's going to kill my Amazon listing, that's going to go down the tubes, and then I'm not making that much profit on the other. And I don't even know if I can get all the inventory to them. So what you can do is when you do get that initial PO, you can talk to the buyer. They know that, first of all, you're going to get a test PO. Then you're going to get something that's probably more regional, a few more stores. Then it'll spread out, and then it'll spread out. But during that first time, you can let them know that you're going to create better retail packaging, or that your product, we just ordered enough product from China, it's going to take a month to get here. There's no problem. There's no problem with that. So anyways, those are just a few tips. And then cash flow, you got to be careful. Sometimes I tell people, if they really want, or if they're really cautious about cash flow, which you should be, you can always go to independent, not grocers, but retailers. I live in a small hick town, more cows than people. And we have a pet store, independent. We have the variety stores. We have all these independent stores in town. They're still, they're not dead. Some people think they might smell funny, but you can go and approach these people and say, hey, I have this really great soap. And if they want to be a little bit different than buying Dove or Irish Spring, and they want a natural soap, well, how much is a case? So you give them a case, or your minimum order quantity might be 2 cases. And guess what? They pay with a credit card. A credit card. Now, what I found, if you do have a bit of cash flow, and you work out all these terms with the buyer, okay, right during the contract, and if it makes sense, great. If not, don't be afraid to negotiate. They might come back with what's best for the chain, and you come back with what's best for you, and you could meet somewhere in the middle.
Should I be at a certain level before I even start thinking about this? Or, maybe I'm still newer on Amazon, but I've got rock solid pricing. So I've got decent profit margins. I've got amazing packaging, retail ready packaging. I might even have products stored here at my own warehouse or something. Am I ready to go? Or do these buyers want to see some kind of, online history, whether it's on Walmart.com or Amazon.com, before they can see you? How much does that help, where you can show your resume, your product resume is look, I've been a bestseller on Amazon, or I've sold $1 million in the last year on Amazon. How much does that matter?
It really does depend. For Walmart, for example, I know this for a fact. To get onto the Walmart marketplace, they're looking for seasoned sellers. So they'll look at your Amazon, or they'll look at your Shopify and bring you over. Now, the great thing about going onto the marketplace, they have basically Pitch Fest twice a year. And if they see that your online product is selling, you could get invited to it. But if you want to get down there in front of Walmart and you've got a really great product, same thing. As long as you can get in front of the buyer, then you might have a chance getting in there. Going online for any retailer, just think of it. All these retailers right now have online marketplaces for the most part. You can, if you're in the pet business, well, maybe Pet Value. If you're Target.com is actually a fantastic platform if you can get approved for it. But you can check out all of those and get onto those marketplaces. But if you want, you can target it. I've seen, I wouldn't say new sellers should probably stay away, but mid-level to advanced sellers, if you can show that you've got a good product, it's well branded. And this is, we've talked about this before, just making sure that your branding is consistent. And Walmart wants you to have this community, this brand community that they're trying to build. Well, this is just another level where that retail purchaser or that buyer wants to make sure that your brand is consistent with whatever that store is, right? If it's not, they're just going to pass you by. So if they can go and take a look at your Amazon listing, they see that you've got really great images, you've got great reviews, it's priced accordingly. And then they go to your Shopify store, and then they might type in a couple of keywords, see if you pop up, or your brand name, and you've got some social media presence. You might have an influencer or two. All of this adds up to being authority. The more authority that you have, the more trust, and more trust equals sales. And that's the same thing with a buyer. They don't want to have a fluke. They will take a gamble on you, but you better have the brand or that look to support it.
So how would I know when I have enough? You know, like is it a revenue? Is it more like a longevity thing? When do I know my resume is ready to go?
Yeah, you can try it out, 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month, and they'll come back to you and they're going to ask you those questions. Mm-hmm. So, what are you generating right now? What's your gross revenue? What's your top line? They're going to ask you that. Yep. And in fact, was it Chewy? I think I was working with Chewy, and they just came back and they said, okay, tell me your costs. Well, I don't want to. Well, if you don't, so they're trying to work out the profit margin, right? So, your cost compared to what you're selling it for, what is your manufacturer's selling retail price? And if you have MAP, which is it's basically the minimum amount you're going to allow them to sell it for. Well, if it meets their range, then it might be okay. Maybe you have to change a few things. Maybe you have to change your pricing. We've talked about perceived pricing before, and maybe with just adding better packaging and making it for the packaging ready for retail, because there will be changes to your packaging. Like, let's say, I'm just trying to see, what do I got here? Okay, matcha tea right there, matcha tea. Well, is it going to sell like that, or is it got to be into a box, or does it have to have a hang tag, a clamshell? It depends, and you might have to get different packaging for different retailers. And I'll give you a great example. Costco. They want bigger, better products. Well, if you're going to go in with, just this, it's not going to happen. And when I say this is a very small package of matcha tea because you can't see it. But if it's a much larger version of this matcha tea tin, then that's fine. But just that's one of them that you're going to have to change for the store. The other thing is, I've got into into the Dollar General type stores. It used to be $1, now $2, whatever it is. Maybe it's $10 by now. But anyways, those types of stores don't require the same thing. Like, they don't require the same type of packaging, but you still have to go through the same process. And for those people who don't necessarily have a big dollar item, or something that's in that dollar range, or maybe if you can sell, like, I don't even touch this at all. But if you've got a smaller dollar item and you can sell it over to Dollar General or any of those types of brands or stores, that might be perfect for you. I did sell EVA foam, like cosmetic wipes for women. And we did the private labeling for CVS, Eckerd, Walmart, Target. We got the whole group of them, same foam, but in the dollar stores, it was a lot less than if you went over to Target and bought it. The packaging looked a little bit differently.
Let's go on the flip side. The ones who have been rejected, is it just, it's not like, they're going to accept every single product. And sometimes it's just luck of the draw maybe, but anything stick out in your mind about why somebody you brought there might have been rejected, like a specific reason? That, maybe you can save somebody the trouble, or somebody can, hear this and, all right, well, I better make sure I have this in order before I go present.
First, research the retailer, because if it doesn't line up with your brand, forget it. There's a lot of different pet stores out there. You might have a boutique style of a pet product, and you're going to a pet store that is very price conscious. and it just doesn't line up. I know, again, going back to Walmart, if you don't line up with their brand, the Walmart brand, then you'll be rejected. Now, that doesn't mean, and maybe you don't have enough sales. So if you go to a Walmart buyer, so now you're talking back and forth, they like your product, but you just can't support it. You might get rejected, but that doesn't mean you can't reapply. The worst thing I've seen is when people go into these buyers with big time egos. Oh, I sell X on Amazon. Whoop-de-doo. That's nothing. That's a one-time order, and they might have a big ego, and then they get rejected, and then they get resentment, and you can't do that. You have to go in and come in with a business tone, regardless. Even if some buyers are jerks, and that's the other thing, by the way. You might be dealing with this really awesome buyer that you get along with. Now, back in the day, I'm an old guy. I could go and take that buyer out at Walmart. I would go and I could buy lunch, depending on the retailer. There's no way you could do that nowadays. You can't do that. So if if your personality aligns with that buyer and your product does, well, there's, two check boxes. But all of a sudden, you might have just a jerk, but they know what they're looking for, and they will, they'll let you know what they're looking for. And you might think you know what they're looking for, but they know your category, your niche much better than you. And some just double barrel you, and you get deflated, and you shouldn't, because in 6 months that person will be on a rotation out of the system.
Yep. You can strike out a couple of times, but hey, it just takes one. Who doesn't want a $750,000 PO? So you're not going to get that from Amazon. All right, well, that's interesting stuff. We might circle back a little bit there, but the last couple of times on the podcast, and actually you're the only one I've ever had on to talk about this, but what's new with Google My Business? Because you're probably the expert of the world in the Amazon world, at least on this. I don't hear anybody talking about this. So what can you educate us on?
Oh my gosh. So I love, so now they've changed everything. And this is why I thought it might be something to talk about. Is it's now called, right across the board, Google Business Profile. So first of all, some people are going to say, where do I start with that? Well, you can go to business.google.com, or if you go up to those 9 icons that you see in the top right and click on it, you'll see it under Profile. And then you could just register and you can get started. But the main advantage, and it's always been, is that Google loves people working with Google products. And Google Business Profile is one of those tools that puts it all together. So the more that you fill it out, and by the way, 9 out of 10 people that I talk to say you can't do this with brands. Wrong. You can absolutely do this with brands. You answer the wrong question and they'll say you can't do it. So there is a question that you have to answer when you get verified, And one of them is, do you leave your office? Okay. Or, one is, do you leave your office? Or I forget the exact wording, but the other one is, do you ever leave your office? Something like that. Well, and I would check the box, I don't leave my office. It's not a retail store. Well, chances are you're going to get denied, rejected. If you attend a trade show, that's leaving the office. So if you're going to an event, one of Helium 10's events, well, guess what? You're a brand now and you can get approved easily. Their approval process is almost immediate now. They have 5 different types of approval, where you only used to have 2, a mail-in card or a phone. Yeah, it was a phone call before, and the phone wasn't really working at Google during the pandemic, so you had to wait 2 or 3 weeks for the card. But anyways, what you can do with this is so cool. Let's say you have a Shopify store with an Amazon store. Maybe you got approved over at Walmart. Well, you can with Google, you can open up a category or a brand. You can put your product line under there. So you have multiple brands, let's say. You can put multiple brands in your Google profile under your company. And then one image. You have one image that might be that matcha tea. Okay, you've got that matcha tea and you're selling it over on Amazon. Well, that link goes over to your listing. The next picture goes over to your store. The next picture to Shopify, and your next over to whatever you want it to go, over to Walmart. And 100% in the second that you click submit, this is indexed. The second that you do that, it's a shoppable link. And if you do this properly and you put in the proper keywords, just describe it. Or if you put in metadata, it will help. It will just help in the rankings. Now, the more information that you're putting, let's say we talk about this tea and we have a blog article on our website, we can take those blog articles and post it from Google into Facebook or into other social media sites, or you could take it from Facebook and point it over to your Google business. All it is Google will provide you with a link. Every time you do anything with your Google profile, you get some sort of lift. You get more ranking. And I've used this for years. Every time I've done a press release, any type of blog article, any type of repurposing. So if I'm on TikTok or if I'm doing whatever on any social channel, all I'm doing is they're going to ask you when you first start, what website do you want this to point to? Not for the images, but what website is this about? So if I put that it's for this website, like XYZ Matcha Tea, that's your anchor URL. So if you put that anchor URL information into a press release, a blog article, a post, anything, that will be related to your Google business account, and voila, it gets indexed immediately. If you take a little bit of time and just go over, now Google just reset everything. If you go into Google business profile now, it used to be very intimidating. There was tons of tabs on the left-hand side that you'd have to fill out. Now there's 8. And you open it up and you'll see the 8 different tabs. This is where the command center is. And this is where you can post and post and post 10 minutes a day, and you're going to skyrocket. Now, it'll take a bit of time because Google's and you want to be consistent, but 10 minutes a day. We did this. We got an event coming up where you're going to miss it this year. But I'm going to be talking about this. And we took 2 brands, brand new, never been on Google business at all. And okay. I was asked to talk about this about 3-4 months ago. Within the last 3 months, they've had 1,000 clicks on their website to buy. That's not bad. So did
they have the Amazon other ones too, or everything? The only one they put in their profile was the website.
This is just online sales off of a Shopify store.
Wow, 1,000 clicks.
1,000, yeah.
And now this is
on the
this is not paid at all. This is organic.
That's the beauty. So right now it's all free. It's been free forever, and this is why I really don't understand why people aren't doing this. And when you put those pictures up, those are shoppable links that you can find in the carousel. And if you're paying for, I shouldn't say this, but because I know Google's going to, if you're paying for Google shopping, you're wasting your money because you get the same thing when you do it for free with Google Business Profile.
There you go. So, guys, hope you might need to rewind that to get the full benefit there, but something that's pretty easy sounds like to do, and who doesn't like the F word of free?
Yes.
So something but like you said, if somebody had done the old Google My Business, Google might have deleted some stuff, so they need to go and redo their store or what?
No, And so all the information that you had, all the photos, any posts that you've done, those are it's all still there. And by the way, if you have an event, so let's say any type of event, Google will weigh that event with the keywords in it a lot higher than your typical post that you put out. So people will see it through Google My Business and it gets indexed.
All right, guys. See, I told you, Norm always brings some unique stuff to the show. Now, before we get back into your, some more strategies here, one thing I'm doing this year is I talk a lot about healthy habits, be it physical health, mental health, and hobbies, people to what they do to get out of the regular rut, like myself. You're no spring chicken either. I believe you're above 40 like me. So what about you? First of all, what's your main hobby of like, hey, I need to just get away from podcasting and e-commerce and stuff. What's your go-to thing? I love cigars, the license plate said. Aha.
There we go.
So cigars.
Yeah, that's my vice. I don't drink. Just if in the afternoon, I take a break sometimes if it's nice out. We just started to get some nice weather here and just like to sit out and have my cigar.
Okay, excellent. Now, what about physical health as far as, do you have any special foods you're eating, special routines, exercising?
You know what? I let everybody else do that. I figure if you're going to save 20 years, going out to the gym, I rather not and, just knock off 20 years off of me so I don't have the hassle of going to the gym. So,
well, hey, you must be active. It's not like you're just sitting in your office all day long.
No. Like we're on a nice park, and so we got the lake in front of us, and I'll go out and do my thing around, like just walk around the lake once in a while. That's about it. Yeah, that's it. I don't go to the gym.
That's good. That's good enough. Like another reason not to live in the city. That's a little bit more difficult to do. Mm-hmm. You're living in, urban area, but a nice little benefit of living in the countryside. All right, now let's just do some. You've given us some longer strategies there. Let's do some quick hitting strategies. They don't have to be about Google My Business, or they don't have to necessarily be about the other stuff we were talking about, like retail. It could be about anything you want.
GA4.
What is that?
Have you heard
Sounds
about
like a
that?
video game.
Okay. So it would probably be a really good video game. This is one of the biggest game changers for the internet that we've ever seen. And it's going to be happening in July. And if you do have Google Analytics and you don't migrate over to GA4, which is Google Analytics 4, and you can just find it on Google, and you can do it yourself, or you can get a team to do it for you. But anyways, you will lose 100% all information that you've had any type of analytics, and you'll lose it. Keyword research, everything. So they're coming out with a completely different system now, and they're giving you until July before they just hit the button and everything changes. So it's going to change the way searches are done, the relevance of searches. It's going to change everything. It's going to be the biggest game changer that we've seen from Google in a long time.
Interesting. All right. So there's one thing, guys. Google that if you don't know about it. And if you guys have been doing some research, you don't want to lose it, make sure you take action. All right, guys, I'm going to pause it right here. I wasn't planning to do this, but this episode started getting even better than it already is, and we just started going on. I thought I was about to end it right here, but he comes out with some stuff that I had no idea even existed. So I was like, let's extend this out. So we're going to pause this now, and then tomorrow, if you come back, you're going to hear the next episode where we get really deep into the whole Amazon influencer and affiliate program and Amazon Live and a whole bunch of cool stuff. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.